Jonathan Major's fall from grace is now complete and final. Because if any of you just caught the trailer for Run, Hide, Fight, Infidels, you know this man's career is as good as over. This is the last picture show with Rahim Khan, and man, this trailer is something else. I don't think I should have even started off with that opening for this particular episode because I don't think I have been so amused by anything this entire year. I mean, is this what $750 million worth of Israeli propaganda money buys you? This, I mean, I feel so sorry for Jonathan Majors because the man is from the sublime to the ridiculous. I mean, this is such a hard fall. And he's just like pancaked because there's no way. I mean, first of all, you're convicted of domestic abuse or at least sort of abusing your girlfriend, right? And now you are starring in what is perhaps the most racist movie of the year. But it's also the most laughable because, in True Lies, when you had them trying to affect like sort of Islamic terrorists or Muslim terrorists. So you came up with that British actor, the baldy British actor, trying to like act tough in front of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And, I thought we were past those days, despite 9/11. You know, I thought that we had come to a point where, this caricature of the Islamo-fascist terrorist, like we had gotten to a point at least where they seemed, at least Hollywood reckoned that they could present a more refined Muslim terrorist, like the one that you had in the first season of like Jack Reacher, not Jack Reacher, sorry, what's it called? Jack Ryan, that whole thing, whatever that show is called, right? Um, like after 25 years almost of peddling that same staid, cliche, bearded, yalla yalla terrorist, like I thought we had gotten to a point where now, you know, at least if they're presenting one, they'd be like, sort of some thought going into it, not sort of these. I'm I can't stop from laughing at how shit this trailer was, right? At imagining, well, of course, this is written and directed by Kyle Rankin, funded by Daily Wire. And Kyle Rankin wrote, of course, the first movie as well, Run, Hide, Fight, which is meant to be, I don't know, a call to arms for like high schoolers. I don't know. But surely, um, this line, and I have to read it out, uh, was written by like some Haspara, uh, what's it called? I mean, operative. Somebody was, wait, please, sorry, I have to do this. Uh, Sorry, why I can't get over this? Is like, how recently you had that Huey Ball movie, Citizen Vigilante, with again another disgraced actor, Army Hammer, starring in it. And again, it feeds into a very sort of Elon Musk spun right wing, anti immigration, Islamophobic European narrative. And how once the movie came out, the actor who whose character executes an entire family, I think, in the last scenes of that movie. I haven't seen it, I've just read about it because I wasn't going to dignify that film with an actual sort of like hour and a half or 2 hours of my life. But he said in horror almost, because it's kind of crazy. I think his wife is of like Indian nationality or descent or something. Um, he said that sort of, this is not the movie that I starred in, right? So clearly, when he's executing the rapist's family or any other part of this movie, he didn't realize that he was starring in what is essentially like sort of this right wing wet dream. But I wonder if Jonathan Majors, maybe not in years to come, but in months to come after the release of this movie, I think it's coming out in August, he will say, that's not the movie I starred in, or that's not the movie I signed up for. But I wonder how he'd be able to explain this particular line, because this is what plays in the trailer. You have him, and you have these college kids going on about how, oh, legendary Delta Force operator Jonathan Majors is on campus and he's written a new book. Are you going to go to his talk? And there he is addressing the crowds, and he says, there are three ways Islam will conquer the West: through immigration, through the wombs of our women, and by using our nation's freedoms against us. I mean, you just know. Forget like this is like some Husper spin doctor writing this shit. This is like Ben Shapiro clearly nursing the demise of the Daily Wire by writing this script. I mean, he's nursing it with perhaps alcohol and perhaps and this movie. He's like, you know what? We need this killer line, or at least this killer sort of like, sort of speech that speaks to maybe your average MAGA, although I don't want to insult MAGAs, seeing as how they've turned on Trump. But we need something that, in times to come, they'd be like, yeah, man, that movie was a watershed moment. They warned us. They warned us about all of this immigration, chain immigration, how all of these sort of like, shithole countries are coming to invade our fair shores and impregnate our women and, of course, take advantage of the freedoms they so hate us for. So he pens this line. I wonder if Shapiro, in a moment of clarity, because again, he does occasionally style himself or imagine himself to be a film critic of some standing, regards this movie as perhaps the worst of the year or of any year. I mean, you can't expect us. And I'm very interested to see how much money did this film was. Okay, no, I shouldn't laugh about this because again, I'm a champion of independent cinemas and bootstrap filmmaking, and they've made this movie for the modest sum of $5 million. I can only imagine how much they paid Jonathan Majors. Like how, and it's hard times. You know that song? How hard is it? Like how rough has it been after paying the lawyers and maybe even a settlement? I mean, how hard has it been for this guy that he has to stoop to this level? Because let us not, I mean, sort of forgetting this movie and forgetting his past actions, he is a very good actor. He's a pretty decent actor. I don't think he was given his career was so short lived, whether in Loki or in Creed, or in Lovecraft Country. The guy was is a decent actor. And it's such a shame to see him being wasted away on stuff like this. But then he, of course, made the unpardonable sin of actually accepting, agreeing to do this movie. So maybe he's not worthy of our sympathy. Um, and it's clear that the budget of this film did not go towards health and safety because, of course, besides the overall stink of this film, uh, there were, of course, production snafus, if you will, because both Majors and another actor fell through this plate glass window. It was meant to be, I think, safety glass or something, going to be development, controversy, incident during filming. Um, Majors and co-star J.C. Kilcone fell 6 feet from a window when an unsecured sheet of tempered glass meant to be shattered later in the scene fell. As a result of the incident, several members of the film crew walked off the set in protest of the set's lack of commitment to workplace safety. Now, I'm so surprised that the producer of this movie, Dallas Sonia, who has made some really decent movies. Do you guys all remember I don't mean to say like he's passed on or he's stopped making films, but I really like this director, Craig Zahler, who made Bone Tomahawk, Dragged Across Concrete. I think he also did the Riot in Cell Block 99 or something like that. This guy has like Incident at Sparrow Creek or something. This guy's made produced some really good movies. What possessed him to make this? And then in response to, um, the film crew walking off, he said, "We are too busy being badasses, blowing shit up, flying helicopters, and killing movie terrorists to concern ourselves with four assholes with signs on the sidewalk and their illegitimate," and I'm doing an air quotes, "strike." He then went on to say, "The entire industry is in free fall due to strikes. And now that their members are out of work, they're trying to sabotage the few people who are still producing. We don't negotiate with communists." The shit writes itself. Like, I mean, I don't even. This is. Oh my God, man. This movie is. You know what's the best? Okay, I'll get into that in a second about what's the real great thing about this movie. But yeah, I'm so surprised that somebody who has a pretty good track record of making some very decent movies has now stooped to the level of producing this. I have to read, of course, the plot. After Islamic terrorists hijack a college's pro Palestine encampment with the goal of enforcing Sharia law on students and executing dissidents whom they deem infidels, a group of students, a security guard, and a Delta Force veteran team up to fight back. Again, as I said, I mean, the shit writes itself. I mean, I don't even need to like sort of have a quip or be sarcastic or like, a retort. That alone is enough to make anyone like groan inside. I mean, this is just too much. I mean, just look at it. I mean, does this not have like just written all over it? Like, again, I have to read this line. After Islamic terrorists hijack a college's pro-Palestine encampment with the goal of enforcing Sharia law on students, what the fuck? What low stakes, small fry terrorists are these guys? I mean, they want to enforce Sharia law on clearly a community college because that's what this place looks like, or at least that's what the budget could afford. These guys aren't going to be going to like some Ivy League. This is clearly like a community college. And these terrorists who are clearly packing heat from the trailer, you can see these guys have a lot of ordnance. Their goal is to enforce Sharia law on This campus, that's it. Like, like, come on, guys, come on. You get like I can understand if the story were in response to the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Certain elements rise up in protest and are met by force by a heavy-handed police department, and all hell breaks loose. But that's not fiction. That's a true story because we saw in the many encampments that were there, peaceful, like what happened in New York, in Columbia, on the campus. I mean, that wasn't violence from the students. That was from the police, sanctioned by, of course, the administration. But let's not get into politics just yet. Uh, of course, when you do watch the trailer, it is your tick box of Islamic cliches. Islamic, of course, the terrorists have to say Allahu Akbar. No, what's it called? Bona fide terrorist or terrorist act is complete without, of course, that phrase, Allahu Akbar. You then have him proselytizing, denouncing the West. Well, motherfucker, why are you even there in the first place? He's like, your men are weak. Your women are like, pardon my French, whores. And he doesn't say that, but like, that's what he's implying because there's a scene in which this body, undersexed, frustrated terrorist, bearded, of course, fawns the hair at least of this sort of Aryan exemplar, or this is his exemplar of Aryan beauty, blonde haired, blue eyed, who's just as well on the campus as she is on the kibbutz. Um, and wait, let's just play it because let's play it again. Poor Jonathan Majors, man. Wait.
Please love and serve the Allah opines. I can see it's the psalmist.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. There's a scene in which on the ground, it's all like, what's it called? Bullet shells and stuff like that. And there is a terrorist trained, you know, to the bullet shells. Because, of course, this ties into the narrative of Islam being like a death cult and us wanting to like murder everyone.
Just secularism.
Secularism. That's the fucking problem, man. And of course, they have AK-47s. They have the classic, of course, Islamic flag, black with the seal of the Prophet. And there in front of the black flag are two women, of course, because we hate women. We hate the freedoms that America has given them. Like the retired Delta Force soldier can actually put two sentences together to write a book. Of course, they need to do this line, a foreign threat, right? And of course, the cause of all of this is the Gaza Solidarity Encampment or protest. Brain dead protesters. This is a line that has been repeated by everyone from like Douglas Murray to like, of course, Shapiro and Brett Stephens, or, all of these people who, Hillary Clinton even, that sort of like, your average protester who is protesting against, of course, the genocide of a people is uninformed, a social media addict, has like, sort of is willing to support any cause just for, FOMO, if you will. And so here you have clearly this MAGA looking guy. Because the thing is that unfortunately, if you want to show a stereotypical, like sort of dimwit MAGA, they have to be dressed in camel. Right? And there's this thing in which they're saying death, a foreign threat, a domestic battlefield. God damn. Fight back or fall. Are you paying attention? Yes, Jonathan Majors, I am. And of course, it is time. Allahu Akbar. Yes. I don't think you need like, sort of a ragtag band of like, sort of Islamic terrorists to do this. I mean, you just need to engage the US in a war with like Iran or sort of something like that in the Middle East. You don't need these guys. Clearly, I mean, Ben Shapiro is behind the times. Okay. And what more do we have? Yeah, there's the guy who's trying to feed up the prawn. More things. Okay, wait. Let's just see what this. Illallah. Okay, so this, I think when he's about to like sort of slaughter or sacrifice the female in this particular thing, he says illallah, which is, I guess he's reciting the shahada or something like that, because that's what like I guess we do when you are sort of putting women or naked men to the knife, to the sword. Yeah. Oh yeah. I love this. I love this one. I love how sort of it has been a fixture in the Western mind. How the reward of all of those fools or the virgins in paradise is like the only reason these bearded guys like pick up arms, take up arms against the West. Like that is it. And I would be rewarded 10,000 times. What do you guys have? You have nothing. Yeah, when you die, you have nothing. This movie appeals to like the most common denominator, and I hate to say that about my fellow man, that he is stupid, he is gullible, but I don't think, you know what? I've said this before on the show. You guys remember the show called Corporate? So there's this line between, it's an exchange between the two main characters, right? And he's like, "Oh, I stopped believing in God." And the other guy is like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, ever since I started reading YouTube comments." So you know what? A great test, I guess. A like a bell, like a sort of a barometer, a yardstick, or sort of the feeling, the consensus behind something are of course YouTube comments. And the YouTube comments here are gold. I think, okay, this script was 3,000 years in the making. Dude really went from being in the MCU to this. This movie was promised to us 4,000 years ago. This got to be a humiliation ritual. Citizen vigilante spiritual successor. I was in a movie once. Just put the fries in a bag, bro. I didn't think he needed $7,000 that badly. Fell out of a window for this. Somehow, Kang has returned. Tel Aviv impressed. From Lovecraft country to this. Great. Now let's do a movie about the USS Liberty. That is, of course, the US naval ship that was bombed, attacked by, of course, Israel, which everyone seems to like swoop under the rug. Um, Besides like the funny hour, right? And seeing me laugh for like the past like what 20 minutes or so. I've got to say that is this the best they can do? Like, I'm surprised that with all of the money and the resources that let us say, I mean, let us not sort of single out the country, but at least the pro-Zionist camp can call upon. Is this again the best they can do? Because, despite the fact that they pushed successfully the propaganda around October 7th, you'd imagine that there would be far more documentaries, movies around, of course, that, but then just generally about Israel and Zionism and the rise in Islam and what's it called, sort of, all of these other sort of right wing talking points like immigration and sort of, then bedding our women and just like trying to sort of drum up Islamophobia. You'd imagine that there would be a lot more of that. But surprisingly, I'm still trying to figure this out because, like, despite the so-called ceasefire, I mean, it's been a year so far. I still have yet to see anything significant, and by significant, I mean anything mainstream to come out from, the pro-Zionist camp. I mean, sure, you had like, a bunch of those documentaries by, what was it, Sheryl Sandberg, if I'm getting her name right. And I think there was even like an Israeli produced October 7th series and a couple of these other things. But like nothing even remotely mainstream. I mean, it's very clear that even your average critic would scoff at anything that Daily Wire is producing, would scoff at anything that is being, you know, starred in by Jonathan Majors. So they could easily sort of sweep this under the rug and say, you know what, not worth taking seriously. But if this is the best that almost $1 billion can do, then God help them, because Jonathan Majors and Kyle Rankin and Ben Shapiro cannot. Um, that's the American way. I will give this movie one thing. It does have a. Oh yeah, it ends. It ends the thing. What's it called? Now, I think it would be too on the nose if they actually had the call to prayer at the end of this thing. So I think they've just like, used like, the very last like octaves of it and they put it in there. But I will give this movie one thing. It does have a pretty cool poster. Even though the use of that particular font, it's a stylized sort of Arab-esque, not Arabesque, but Arabic-esque type font. They've used that. But other than, I really like the poster. And I mean, if even Tucker Carlson is taking issue with a movie like this, then somehow the Muslim bad guys return. Yeah, man, we're back. And another thing, a curious thing, and I'm going to end on this particular note. I was going through the IMDb thing as to sort of were any actual like Muslims cast in this movie, because the Muslims, at least one or two of them who did star in that Huey Ball movie, they were criticized. They're like, why the fuck would you star in a movie like about, you know, Muslim immigrants, in this case Syrians, going around raping, women and, just being complete assholes. Why would you star in a movie like this? So I just wanted to see if there were any Muslims in the cast of this movie. And there is one. His name is Hossein Sayyid. I have no idea, Sayyid, whatever. I have no idea what his role is. If he even plays one of the main bad guys or something like that. But shame on you, man. Why the fuck would you star in this movie? Yeah. They want to cancel Jonathan Majors again. Oh, this is from Ben Shapiro. Right. So I'm not going to watch this video because it's 14 minutes long. But Ben Shapiro put a video out defending, of course, Jonathan Majors starring in this film. Sure. You are infidels. The bodies of women are not pure. Of your women are not pure. Okay, cool. Ah, it's so bad it's good. But I don't think that that's sort of like that should be advertising for this movie. Will I watch it? Maybe to review bomb it, but I think that sort of the comment section alone is going to tank this movie. I'm very interested to see how this movie does at the box office, if it even does get distribution, or it's going to be released online. Interested to see how that happens. But I mean, with a budget of $5 million, you know what's going to happen? They may make a profit, right? Even if they make like $6 million, that's still $1 million in the bank, right? And they'd be like, look, this is exactly what, the public have been demanding. Like Elon Musk's AI accurate version of the Odyssey. That's exactly what sort of the viewing public want. Run, hide, fight, infidels.